Pakistan, this is our country. You are from Europe. We are owner of this country. Go back to Europe. Go back to England. Deport our England people. You go back to Europe. You are not Canadian. We are Canadian. This is our country. You are invaders. We are native Indian. You go back. Go back. You white people, go back to your Europe. Go back to your England. We are owner of this country, you white people. This is our country.
Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. Why would I show that again? Yeah, that's not from last weekend. That's not from today. That's not from yesterday. That's from about 6 months ago. But that's what Canada has become. That's the Canada we live in today, where we have Khalistanis who came to Canada with their fight with India. They continue to agitate. We had a NDP leader who was in their pocket, and they tell you to go back to Europe. I wasn't born in Europe. I was born in this country. But that's outrageous, of course. We all know it's outrageous. But I'll tell you, hundreds of thousands of Canadians are leaving Canada every year as we bring in 1 million new immigrants. That's what's happening to Canada. I'll be back in a moment with more information about what is going on in this country. Sorry. There we go.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
We need political change. But we also need to resolve to resist. Yes, please like the station right now. The numbers have been appallingly low all week. I know what YouTube is up to. They're trying to squeeze my station off the air. But we're fighting back. And with your support, we can get back on an equal footing. Because, 7,000 views yesterday. That's evidence of what's going on with deplatforming, with suppression, censorship. This goes on every day. Appreciate you helping me out. Subscribe, please. Share with your friends and family. Expand the audience. We appreciate it. Resubscribe if they've unsubscribed you. And they unsubscribed a bunch of people that day. And I know it wasn't the broadcast, but I've been putting this up now every day for the last week. And why? Because once again, we haven't heard a thing from the government or the opposition about why Canada was automatically a member of the World Health Organization's pandemic agreement. This is a treaty. And it means the next time there's a pandemic, the World Health Organization calls the shots. The next time there's a pandemic, the World Health Organization will issue the ultimatum. It will issue lockdown ultimatums. It will issue ultimatums about mandates, about how people must get vaccinated or else they won't work, they can't travel, they can't go anywhere, except stay in the basement of their house. That's what we're up against. Now let's keep pushing these numbers up, folks, because I'm sick of being sat on by YTube every day. And we're going to fight them every step of the way. But that, my friend, is probably the 10th day in a row I have put up a slide about the WHO, and its pandemic treaty, and how nobody in the House of Commons is objecting to this. Not a soul. I know it's important to you. I know what the Conservative Party would say. That's not a pressing issue. It's more important to talk about the tariffs. It's more important to talk about the budget. Well, every second question from the Conservatives is about the budget. Every second answer from the Liberals is, what budget? Yes, we've noted you want a budget, but we're not giving you one. So next question, please. So this is a game. It's almost, it is absurd to continue to ask the same question every day, 5 or 6 times during question period, and get the same answer, when you could be using that time to expose the pandemic treaty and Bill C-2. This is the Strong Borders Bill. We've talked about it all week. And believe me, it is an absolute travesty. And this is the bill that's going to make it legal for the RCMP and posties to open your mail, for the government to survey your internet activity, text messages, email, maybe even direct messages. They'll demand maybe from X. X probably won't give them to them, but they'll start meddling in that next. And no more transactions above $10,000 in cash. This is digital currency on the way. This is what Mark Carney's all about. What else is Mark Carney all about? Oh, he's going to China. He's going to regularize communication between Canada and China. What does regularize mean? Well, as far as China is concerned, it's regular for them to terrorize Chinese dissidents who are in Canada, to have police stations operating, Chinese police stations operating across the country. It's normal to be harassing Chinese dissidents and threatening them, and possibly even abducting them and bringing them back to China so they can punish them. Now, that is what normal is for China. Mark Carney knows that. Mark Carney is modeling a digital currency, and I'll bet you this, he's going to be modeling the same kind of scores that China gives you in terms of whether you get access to healthcare, whether you can travel, whether you can buy certain goods, whether you're part of the middle class in China or you're part of the great unwashed. Mark Carney has the same idea for Canada, where you'll be judged, your score. Are you environmentally correct? Are you doing things? Are you possibly not cooperating with Mark Carney? That's where we're going with this. Come on, let's push those numbers up, people. YouTube is doing it to me again. And that's what Mark Carney is all about here. So he wants to normalize relations. Didn't he just go back to China in October? Excuse me. He went back to China in October. Remember that? When he was the top senior financial advisor to Justin Trudeau in the Prime Minister's office. He went back to China so he could secure a $176 million loan from the Bank of China for Brookfield Asset Management. He was supposed to be there representing the government of Canada. He went there to get a loan from China because he's in China's pocket. He wants the Chinese currency to replace the American dollar as the world currency. He wants China to replace America as the world economic engine. He wants a digital currency, and he wants to devalue our dollar and the American dollar so Europe can benefit. He's all about China and Europe. He's not about Canada strong. He's not about Canada anything. Everything you see from Mark Carney right now is a charade, a facade. By the way, look at this. I found this fascinating. Saw this morning. Canadians are leaving the country in droves. And one province is leading the exit. Can you guess what that would be? All right. Come on now. It's Ontario. 50,000 people from Ontario left Canada last year. And that tells me that they're worried about the future, and they've actually given up. Wouldn't you say? Yeah, I would say that's exactly what has happened. Now, I know you're all waiting to see this. I showed this yesterday when I was in conversation with Spencer from Make Canada Great Again. We had a great discussion about things. But this, of course, is our public safety minister.
Minister, know what an RPAL is?
No, Minister.
I do not.
Member.
Does the minister know what the CFSC is?
I'm a minister.
I do not, no.
Member.
I'll stipulate, Chair, that is the Canadian firearm safety course that all gun owners in Canada have to do to get their firearms license. Has the minister ever done the Canadian firearm safety course?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, it's my third week on the job. No, I have not.
The Honourable Member.
Does the minister know what safety classes and safety demands are expected of law-abiding Canadian gun owners?
The Honourable Minister.
This is not about law-abiding gun owners, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member.
How can the minister make that claim when he doesn't know the basic fundamentals of law-abiding gun ownership in this country, Chair?
The answer, of course, is he doesn't give a damn whether he knows anything about the gun law. He just wants to enforce it on behalf of his political masters. This guy is unfit for office. And I'm saying today, you need to resign. You don't know anything. You're not capable of running this ministry. This reminds me of a scene from the old British sitcom Yes, Minister, where the minister is depicted as vacuous and just reading the talking points given to them by the bureaucracy, by the deep state. That's exactly what this public safety minister is doing here. But there's more. Oh, yes, there's more. This guy was involved with advocating for Tamal Tiger terrorists to enter Canada. And he's recused himself from anything to do with Tamal. Just get rid of this joker. He had no business being public safety minister to begin with. Find somebody who understands the file, who understands the ministry. The guy doesn't have a clue. Let's watch this.
Prime Minister Mark Carney defended his choice of public safety minister Friday.
Minister Anandasangaree has the highest standards of integrity. He's absolutely meticulous.
His comments come after Global News reported Anandasangaree asked public safety officials to implement a conflict of interest screen for any national security issues related to the Tamil community, which means he is not allowed to discuss or decide anything on that file.
We have a rigorous vetting process, and he's taken the right decision in his judgment and in my judgment to make these arrangements.
Anandasangaree said the screen was implemented in an abundance of caution and to ensure that there is no perception of any conflict. Two sources told Global News that some senior Liberal staff were concerned about a perceived conflict of interest should the minister's past actions and statements come to light.
Wait till you hear what some of those past actions and statements were. Why is this guy occupying this office? He's dead weight. He's dead wood. Get rid of this guy. He should resign immediately. Stop wasting our time. Stop pretending you know what to do in this job. If you have to recuse yourself for Tamal, where does this begin and end? How many other files are you going to have to recuse yourself from because of the stupid statements you made in the past as a lawyer?
Anandasangaree came to Canada from Sri Lanka in 1983. The same year, civil war erupted in that country between government forces and militant separatist rebels known as the Tamil Tigers, designated by Canada as a terrorist group in 2006. After the war ended, Anandasangaree, a lawyer, helped hundreds of Sri Lankan migrants who had paid human smugglers to ferry them on ships to Canada's west coast by preparing an intervention if Canada prevented one of the ships from arriving. The Associated Press quoted Anandasangaree as saying the migrants would have legitimate refugee claims even if some were members of the Tamil Tigers. National security sources first began raising concerns to Global News that the minister's past comments were at odds with agencies he now supervises.
We have a minister now whose response to being confronted with concerning relations with groups that are affiliated with a listed terrorist organization is to say, I'm going to step back and recuse myself. I don't think that's going to fly with our security partners around the world.
Anandasangaree argues his past shouldn't preclude him from now being the point man on tightening border security.
I continuously work with many agencies that provide frontline services to refugees. So I do believe I have the credibility to talk about issues at our border.
You don't have the credibility to talk about the weather, Gary Anandasangaree. You don't have the credibility to be public safety minister. It's the crucial, pivotal cabinet position. There's lots of people in the Liberal caucus better qualified, believe it or not, as bad as they can be, as low as the CVs can be. There's better people in the Liberal caucus to fill this role. And it's far too important a job to entrust to this guy. He should not be there. He should resign now and Mark Carney should not be defending him. But, you know, I say this again. Why did Mark Carney put Gregor Robertson in charge of housing? This is the guy who failed miserably as the mayor of Vancouver. Prices of homes doubled while he was mayor. So why is he housing minister? And you listen to him in question period, it is pitiful to listen to this guy saying, yes, we have some challenges ahead of us. Challenges, that was the word Justin Trudeau used every time he was trying to say, we have a catastrophe in front of us. We're looking at disaster. No, it's just a challenge. And this is exactly what Gregor Robertson likes to talk about. This guy has lots of challenges. He can't even talk about the Tamal file when it ever comes up. And how many other files can he talk? He has no idea about the courses gun owners have to take in order to legally possess firearms in this country. No idea. I've only been on the job 3 weeks, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Well, you could be on this job for 3 years, and I'll bet you still don't know any more about this file because you don't care. And that's what it comes down to, folks. And encourage you right now, like the station, share it, because these numbers are getting pushed down. This is frustrating. Please give us a hand here to fight back against YouTube. What they're doing right now is absolutely abominable. But thanks for your patience. I have to say that. So Pierre Poilievre did a news conference yesterday. We're going to listen to some of that because he spoke for about 10 minutes with questions and answers. And I was saying, surely to God, he's going to mention Bill C2, the Strong Borders Bill. He's going to say either, I just love this bill because we need stronger borders. And I'm so happy to see Prime Minister Mark Carney is actually responding to that need. Or conversely, I was hoping he would say, this bill has nothing to do with strong borders. This bill has everything to do with surveillance, opening mail, digital currency, and AI gathering information about us. Yes, this is about intelligence gathering, about gathering a database of all Canadians. It's bigger than I thought. The more I look into this bill, the worse it looks. Not a peep, not a word of protest from Pierre Poilievre or the Conservatives about this bill. Now, has he not read it? Is he so fixated on the budget, on the tariffs, that he can't look at this or the pandemic treaty? Why is he not speaking out about this bill? It's extremely frustrating. Let's listen for a minute to Pierre Poilievre.
On resources. Today, the Prime Minister made a very interesting admission. He said that Liberal laws make it impossible to get anything built. And his solution to that is to allow certain politically favored projects to break those laws. So he'll say you can go around the terrible laws if you are politically favored. Why not just get rid of the laws? He admits that they are not needed to protect the environment, or else he would not allow any projects to go around them. He admits that they block things from getting done. So isn't the solution just to get rid of the law? I mean, if you have a wall that's blocking everybody from getting where they need to go, why would you say that only a certain group of people are allowed to go around it and the rest must stand there facing that wall? Why not knock down the wall and allow us to develop our resources for real? I'll also note that the Prime Minister made a very troubling comment. I only heard it in French. I don't know if he said it in English, you might know. But he said that premiers will have a veto on resource projects and pipelines. Well, the most promising pipeline is from northern Alberta to the Pacific coast.
Hold on a second here. All right, so the provinces have a veto. That means Quebec, British Columbia are both opposed to pipelines. Carney knows that. So while he publicly goes out and proclaims his love of pipelines and the need for pipelines, he knows Quebec and British Columbia could potentially do the dirty work for him and veto these pipelines. Mark Carney is playing a game. He's playing us. He's playing us all for suckers. because he thinks, hey, all I got to do is talk about pipelines, and people think Mark Carney really does want a pipeline, but it's those provinces that are standing in the way. If only Mark Carney could just build the pipeline. Well, Mark Carney needs to go ahead with the pipelines, and to hell with Quebec and BC. We need a pipeline going across this country. And it is time to just do it. But Mark Carney won't do it because he doesn't want to. He's still the net zero guy. He's still the environmental extremist who hates pipelines in Canada, but he loves them in other countries if Brookfield Asset Management is financing them and he's making money and the shareholders are making money. That's great for Mark Carney. Mark Carney thinks that works very well. But this is a game he continues to play with you and I in Canada. Let's listen to some more up here.
And the NDP Premier of BC has said no to pipelines. So is the Prime Minister effectively saying we're not going to get any pipelines built? And if so, is he ceding to Donald Trump that the Americans will continue to get 80 to 90% of our energy projects products at enormous price discounts? It would appear to be the case. Now, look, Conservatives are happy to see any project, even one project, accelerated. And we will never stand in the way of even one project moving ahead because we are so desperate to see things built and Canadians working to do those projects. But we think that we need to take bold, across-the-board action for all projects. And that's why I'm announcing Conservatives will be happy to cooperate to pass a real national sovereignty law which would repeal Liberal C-69, the canker ban, the energy cap, the industrial carbon tax, and unlock our resources with shovel-ready zones that provide pre-permitting, clear conditions, and boundaries to start building mines, hydroelectric dams, nuclear plants, LNG liquefaction facilities, pipelines, and many more projects.
This is a good suggestion. I don't think Carney is going to bite, but this is a very good suggestion as to how to get beyond BC. And Quebec is, we don't know how Quebec is going to go on this. The Premier of Quebec, of course, is saying pipelines, perhaps. The Bloc Québécois is adamantly opposed to them. So there's going to be a fight in Quebec. BC, even though that socialist Premier, David Eby, only has like a 1 or 2 seat majority in the BC legislature, he is ruling that province like a little dictator. Yeah, I know he's about 6'7", but in terms of his mental abilities, he's diminutive.
Cannot wait. We do not need baby steps. We need breakthroughs. And Conservatives are here to work with all other parties to get it done because we want to put our country first. We want to be self-reliant, sovereign, and independent. And we want our people to have big, powerful paychecks that restore the Canadian promise that anyone who works hard gets a good life in our great country. Thank you very much.
Should Modi be at the G7? Should Modi, is it appropriate for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to be attending the G7 in Kananaskis when there's an ongoing RCMP investigation into the Modi and government's potential involvement in the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar?
Thank you for
Now, Polyev answers correctly on this. This is absolute balderdash that Modi was involved in some assassination of a Khalistani terrorist who shouldn't have been in Canada in the first place. But Modi leads India, which of course is should be one of our biggest trading partners, even though Justin Trudeau did everything possible to alienate India. And the RCMP have already said there's really no evidence here. So I don't know what this reporter is talking about. The investigation? Justin Trudeau acknowledged that there really wasn't anything to investigate, and the RCMP said so. The Privy Council office said there is really nothing to investigate here with India. So why is this reporter going on about this? Polyev answers quite well about it.
the question. Look, India has been at the last 6 G7 conferences. It's one of the biggest and fastest growing economies in the world. We need to sell our natural gas, our civilian nuclear power technology, and other resource projects to India. And we need to work with India and other countries on trade and security. So we, as Conservatives, understand that the invitation is necessary, and that we want to see the government work on addressing security issues at the same time as they have when Prime Minister has those conversations with Prime Minister Modi.
Good answer. This is totally manufactured.
Pourquoi c'est nécessaire que la support legislation that improves the status quo? You said you would support legislation that improves the status quo. Does this meet the bar, and will you support it?
So we'll let you know on Wednesday. We have our caucus meeting Wednesday.
Okay, he says, we'll let you know Wednesday. But then he proceeds to basically answer her question as, yes, we'll support it. Why did the Conservative government talk about opposing the speech from the throne, just like the NDP did, and then they did nothing when it came up for a vote? And it wasn't a recorded vote. It was just, anybody opposed to this out there? Andrew Scheer was in the House of that day as the acting leader of the official opposition. He said nothing in protest. So Poilievre is now reiterating his promise to support Mark Carney at every opportunity if it improves the status quo. Is that why he is apparently supporting Bill C-2, the Strong Borders Bill? Is that why? Because he thinks it improves the status quo?
Wednesday. It's baby steps when we needed a giant leap. Like I said in my remarks, we would vote in favor of accelerating even one project, even though we think there are literally thousands of projects that need to be accelerated. So our test is not whether or not legislation is perfect, but whether it is better than the way things are. And that's what we'll be looking at as we study this newly introduced bill over the next few days. We are happy to collaborate with any of the parties on this bill, and we want to amend it to scrap the No Development Law C-69, the shipping ban, the energy cap, bring in shovel-ready zones, eliminate the industrial carbon tax. We will work on a nonpartisan basis with any party to do all of that before Canada Day. And if the Prime Minister is really interested in getting things done, I'm sure that he will work with us on that too.
Does this sound like a man who believes Mark Carney is a clear and present threat to Canada, an existential threat to Canada, that Mark Carney is bad news for Canada? Does this sound like a man who wants to bring down the Liberal government anytime soon? Absolutely not. He wants to get the by-election over with. He wants to get his seat back. Then perhaps he'll think about bringing down the government. By then, it might be too late, because watch out for the Enabling Act coming from Mark Carney, which will give him powers to rule by decree.
Minister Anandasangaree says that he'll have to recuse himself from any decisions based on the national security decisions related to the Tamil community. Are you concerned about a public safety minister who can't make decisions about that area?
He's not quite ready for this one, but I'll tell you what really disappoints here.
I just learned of this afternoon, and I'd like to take a little more time to hear what he has said and what screen he's put in place before I offer a comment.
Thumbs up here. All right, so the reporter mentions the Public Safety Minister, Gary Anandasangaree. Why doesn't Pierre Poilievre say, yeah, that's probably going to be a problem, but you know what I'm more concerned about is the Public Safety Minister's introduction of a bill called C-2, the Strong Borders Act. That's what really worries me, because that's going to take Canadians' freedom away. It's going to have a surveillance state. It's going to create a national database so they can find you, so they can know what you're up to. It's going to create a digital currency so they know what you're buying, so they know where your money is going. It's going to create a system where the RCMP opens up the mail. Do you remember why they created CSIS back in the 1970s? It was a result of something called the MacDonald Commission. I remember this. Donald MacDonald, that was his name. He was Pierre Trudeau's finance minister and other ministers during Trudeau's tenure. So Donald MacDonald had an investigation, and he ran this royal commission into why is the RCMP opening up people's mail? So the solution was the RCMP has got to get out of the spying business, which is what they were doing. And we will create the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS. That's why CSIS was created, to stop the RCMP from opening our mail. So ironically, here we are in 2025, and Mark Carney wants to give those powers of opening mail back to the RCMP and to the Canadian Union of Postal Workers to open your mail. And CSIS, of course, is still going to be spying on you. But now the RCMP and Canada Post will be spying on you. And God knows what other government agencies are going to get involved with this database, because this is truly frightening. We're going to be talking about this more next week. And on Monday, I've got Kyle Kempner, half-brother of Justin Trudeau, on the show. We're going to be talking about cryptocurrency, but I'm also going to be talking about digital currency with Kyle. He's an expert on this. He's an entrepreneur, and he does a lot of work on this file, and he knows a hell of a lot more, I think, than Mark Carney knows about this file. And I think a lot more than the Conservative opposition knows, because they're not the least bit concerned about this. And I am. So as soon as the name Gary Anandasangaree, or Public Safety Minister, came up in that news conference, I was expecting Pierre Poilievre to say C2 is posing at least some challenges. Could he at least say that? But no, he's not even prepared to say that. He doesn't want to discuss it because he doesn't want to look like he's against border security. And this is precisely how Mark Carney is going to shove through all of his pernicious, odious, nefarious, toxic legislation. He's going to wrap it up in paper that says border security, national security, national defense, affordability. Inside, it's rotting. But that's what you're not going to see, because it's going to be wrapped up in glistening Christmas packages. And that's what's going on here. Let's listen to a bit of question period.
Questions orales. The honourable member for the request for Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The job numbers are out, and they're bad. Failing Liberal policies have now caused a full-blown unemployment crisis. 7% unemployment overall. Ontario alone has shed 25,000 manufacturing jobs, and 1 in 5 students can't find a job this summer. So when will this government reverse their job-killing policies so that Canadians can get back to work?
Here. Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, we have seen the job numbers, and I would say it's in large part to the trade war that we're facing with our neighbor to the south. But Madam Speaker, Canadians, and I think I hear the Conservative will rejoice.
Oh, it's all the fault of our neighbor to the south. It's the tariffs. That's why we have such job losses. Nothing to do with the catastrophic policies of your Liberal government for the past decade. Nothing at all to do with that. It's all about tariffs. You know, you're going to be sick and tired of Francois-Philippe Champagne's whiny voice very, very quickly in Parliament, because he's going to be up quite a bit now as the finance minister, and it's going to be very tiring. But what's even more tiring is here the Liberals try to excuse themselves for their decade of absolute catastrophic economic fiscal policies. His predecessor, Chrystia Freeland, was absolutely devastating for the economy. But all you're going to hear is it's tariffs. It's all about the tariffs. Nothing we can do about it, folks. Nothing at all.
That later on today we will be tabling legislation, including a plan to build Canada strong, Madam Speaker. That's the type of thing. On this side of the House, they just ask question. On this side of the House, we put plan forward to build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan.
Madam Speaker, the fact is unemployment has been steadily increasing under this government for 2 years. This week I spoke to Josh, a hardworking and experienced labourer in his late 30s. Josh has been unemployed for more than a year and has now put in over 1,000 applications. StatCan's numbers show that unemployed Canadians like Josh are searching longer and becoming more desperate. Now, by raising taxes, obstructing development, and letting immigration get out of control, Liberals are depriving people like Josh of the opportunities that they deserve. Will they change course so that Josh and others can get back to work?
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I think about Josh, his families, his community, and all the communities around the country which are affected by this trade war. That's why, Madam Speaker, we are going to table legislation later on today with a plan, because the way to address what's going on in Josh and his employment status is to build a plan, to create opportunities, to build Canada strong, to build a confident Canada, a prosperous Canada. And I would want to salute the work of my colleague, the Minister of Transport and the Minister of One Canadian Economy. They have done great work, Madam Speaker, to build that one Canadian economy that will create.
Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Before he gets up again, why do you think Mark Carney created a Minister for Artificial Intelligence? And that, of course, is the failed journalist Evan Solomon, who I'm sure you all know very well. Decided, I just want to be a Liberal MP. That's what he was his entire career, was a Liberal, spouting off Liberal propaganda, talking points from the news stations. But why do you think we have a Minister of AI? Because Mark Carney is going to give a big push for AI. And what do you think is going to happen? Not just to people working in factories, but potentially millions of Canadians who are doing white-collar jobs. They're going to be replaced by artificial intelligence. We are headed towards the biggest economic chasm in history. It's going to be worse than the Great Depression. And everybody is just standing there watching it happen, as if it just won't happen if we pretend it's not going to happen. And it's this kind of delusion, this kind of ignorance that is killing this country. And we can listen to these questions from Garnet Jenius for the rest of the afternoon about the fact employment numbers are down. Unemployment is up. But nobody wants to get at the basic problem here, is that we have a government that's going to start pushing artificial intelligence in a big way. And it's even being pushed right now in the United States under Donald Trump, who should know better. And people voted for Donald Trump to avoid this kind of AI revolution. But it's going to happen here in Canada. And I tell you, it's not going to be very good. And that's what we need to be concerned about. Conservatives need to go beyond just their own talking points about the fact there's no budget, employment numbers are up, the price of coffee has gone up 9%. Actually, it's gone up about 40% in the last year or two. And I can document that. But we need to go beyond the headlines. The Conservatives need, and if I'm preaching to the converted, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people out there who say they're doing such a great job. No, they're not. They have to do a better job, because Mark Carney is an existential threat to Canada. And for that matter, to our strongest ally, the United States. I don't know if Donald Trump knew that, or if he's playing a very bizarre game with him or not. But we are in a very bad situation right now. And the Conservatives need to view Mark Carney not as their friend or ally or somebody that they can support if he changes the status quo a bit. He is changing the status quo. He's allowing the RCMP to open our mail. He's allowing Canada Post to open our mail. He's allowing internet surveillance to go on. He's creating a digital currency pathway. That's changing the status quo, Pierre Poilievre. Do you want to support that or not? We need the Conservatives to stand with us on freedom, because there's nobody else in the House of Commons that wants to. There's a lot of great Conservative MPs who believe in freedom, who believe in free speech, and can see this coming. But they've been told, yes, I know this, they've been told, just bridle your tongue right now. Don't say anything. We just have to get through this period. We just have to get Pierre elected in the by-election. We just have to get through this summer show that's going on. And when we come back in the fall, maybe we can start to really oppose these things. I suggest by that time it might be too late, because Mark Carney's not going to stop governing. He's even said he's going to push through this bill to alleviate provincial economic boundaries if he has to stay there all summer. And if he doesn't stay there all summer, he'll be working in the back room on other policies that are detrimental to Canada. And what do you think he really wants to do with this provincial legislation? Why do you think he wants to sit in the House all summer to push this legislation through? Because in this bill, there'll be a poison pill. And that poison pill will be the federal government can usurp provincial rights, provincial autonomy over natural resources at any time by legislating it in the House of Commons. They will do this by decree. That's what Mark Carney's really up to when he talks about we've got to eliminate these interprovincial trade barriers. What is he really after? Ask yourself that. What is Mark Carney really trying to do here? He wants to interfere with provincial autonomy because that's another way to stop a liberal federal government tyranny. Alberta knows that. Daniel Smith knows that. You and I know that. I'll be back in a minute with some concluding remarks. Let's keep pushing these numbers up because YouTube is sitting on this broadcast again. I'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. Got Kyle Kemper on the show on Monday. We're going to be talking about cryptocurrency. He's going to explain everything you wanted to know about cryptocurrency. And we're going to be talking about digital currency and how Mark Carney might introduce it. I've already told you it's going to be introduced in the Strong Borders bill. It's there. Read the bill and weep. I've got Naomi Wolf on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about the pandemic. We're going to be talking about her latest book. We're going to be talking about the work she's doing to sustain freedom of speech in these difficult times. Fantastic woman. Like I said, somebody I never thought I would get to know and like so much, but the pandemic worked miracles that way. I just love the work she's doing. And I'm interviewing Daniel Smith on Thursday. The interview will probably hold till Friday morning. But we're going to be talking about the Alberta Accord and the challenges, I hate to use that word, that she's facing with Alberta independence. And Jeff Rath will be on the show at some time next week to talk about the Alberta independence movement's latest initiative, which is to issue an economic platform to say exactly how Alberta would benefit from independence. So that's probably going to be Tuesday or Wednesday next week. I'm not sure. Well, Wednesday or Thursday next week. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching today. Let's keep persevering. Let's keep fighting back against this YouTube censorship and suppression, which I'm getting again today. And it's frustrating, I have to say. I think we're doing a great show here, but YouTube is delegating me to the bottom rung every day. And I got to find ways to fight back. But the best way to do so is to get you to involve your friends and family to subscribe and increase the numbers of this show on a daily basis. I'll be back again tomorrow. It's been a pleasure talking to you again. I love you all. It's a pleasure just to talk about these issues because we need to talk about them because freedom survives in discourse. It dies in silence. This has been David Crayden coming to you live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. God bless what's left of this country.